if you're listening right now, there's a good chance you might be feeling stuck. Not the dramatic, life is falling apart kind of stuck, but the quieter, deeper kind. The one where you're still going through the motions, pushing, trying, doing all the things, but it feels like you're walking through wet cement, like you've outgrown your life and the discomfort of staying the same is starting to scream louder than the fear of changing. I know that feeling very intimately because I'm right in the middle of it myself. In this episode, we're going to get real about that stuck cycle, why we get into it, and why sometimes we stay there longer than we should. And this is the important part, why that feeling isn't a sign that you're broken or failing in any way. It's actually a powerful signal. It might even be the sacred pause that you needed before your huge leap. Let's get into it. You're listening to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. I'm your host, Tina Stinson, and I had a stroke at the age of 39 from stress and burnout that shook my world. Now I'm laying it all out, the deep level self-care practices and mindset shifts that I needed that kept me healthy, balanced, and thriving. Join me in this intimate space as we explore healing, resilience, and the soul's journey to alignment. This is where real conversations about deep-level self-care happen. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. Like I said, today we're talking about that stuck feeling you get. And maybe you've experienced this. Maybe that's why you're listening. Maybe you've felt stuck for a long time. Maybe it's something new. Maybe you've been stuck and you just can't seem to get moving. I've experienced all these things, and I've definitely talked about this before. But one of the things I've realized now later in my life is that it's kind of like a cycle. You know, you move into something new, you do it for a while, and then eventually it feels a little stagnant. You need a change, and that's when you get like kind of that stuck feeling. But sometimes you stay there longer. And so I want to talk about that today because that's what I'm experiencing right now. I tend to talk about things on the podcast that I'm like going through in the moment, and I like to share with you, you know, what I'm experiencing and how I seem to kind of like move through these things. So one of the things I notice when I get stuck and I stay there for too long, it's deeply uncomfortable, you know, and it gets to a point where you can't ignore it. And that's when you start to take action, when being stuck is more uncomfortable than the fear of moving forward. So also, I think that this time of the year, people tend to get a little antsy. It's the end of the year. Maybe you're not happy with the direction your life went in. Maybe you thought you were going to do more in the past year. Maybe you said you were going to do all these things and you didn't do them, and you want to kind of move on that. So one of the things I want to talk about is that this isn't like a let's move into this new year, you know, New Year's resolution type thing. I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but this is more like I'm feeling really stagnant in my life, and now I need to change something and move forward. And there's a couple of things that you have to do to move through that. So I'm going to move into this podcast series, and it's going to be 3 separate podcasts. This is going to be the first one. And then there's going to be 2 more towards the end through December. And it's going to lead into this little mini reset that I'm doing in between the Christmas and the New Year to help you kind of really start your new year off like in the best possible positioning as you can. And one of the things that you need to do when you're feeling stuck is you need to know where you want to go, because if you don't know where you want to go, you can't point yourself in that direction. And so that's part of what I'm going to be talking about. So as I said, I've been going through this myself, and I feel like this is one of the biggest shifts that I'm making in my life. I don't know why I feel that way. I can't really give you like some kind of definitive reason. It just feels really big. It feels like a new era, like a new identity. And I'm actually moving to a new state. So I have all these big new things happening. I'm moving, I'm changing my business. I'm investing in parts of my business, and I just feel like I'm moving into like a new version of myself. I feel different inside. And a lot of the people I'm talking to right now are also in the same place. So I feel like this is some kind of a group awakening kind of thing. People are tired of kind of looping, tired of pretending to be something that they're not, tired of doing things that they don't want to do, tired of staying small, and tired of the familiar aspect of where they're at. Not that being in a familiar place is bad. I don't think that's bad at all, as long as it's something that you want, you know? So I think what's going on is people are awakening up to the fact that they do things all day long that they don't want to do. So for example, maybe they go to a job and they're working 8+ hours a day doing something they don't want to do. And meanwhile, maybe their kids are in daycare and somebody else is raising their kids, and it just feels off. I think people are just waking up to how off that is, how off it feels to work like 95% of your life at this point for most people and not be able to do the things you want to do, not be able to live your life. Because even after working all this time, a lot of people are just making ends meet. They're not having that extra and that enjoyable aspect. Now, that's not everybody. A lot of people do and have a lot of joy and enjoy doing things, but there's a large majority of the population who doesn't. So what are some of the reasons that we stay stuck longer than we should? So I would just say sometimes, and this is definitely the case for me, we're prioritizing comfort over like living our lives. And I think that after COVID, my prime function was making myself feel comfortable and secure, because COVID made me feel very insecure and not safe, right? And so I prioritized making myself feel safe and comfortable. And I think I just got stuck there because it was safe and comfortable. I mean, you know, obviously. So, and then I really outgrew this fast and it became uncomfortable, but I didn't really know how to move forward, right? So I kind of outgrew this situation, this perspective of myself. And I knew I needed to move forward, but I didn't know what I needed to do differently. Also, sometimes your nervous system is clinging to what's familiar because it thinks change is danger, right? So your brain is designed to keep you alive, not keep you happy. And so if it's keeping you in a place that's safe and anything outside of that safe circle equals danger, then you're going to fight with yourself over that change. You're really going to have to push out of that because your brain is trying to keep you safe. And I think that was part of it for me too, hence the whole like COVID thing, and then, you know, making myself feel safe and comfortable, and then you know, feeling uncomfortable and then trying to push out of that and not being able to do it. It was like this fight with myself. And I think a lot of people have experienced this. I've talked to quite a few people still experiencing this. So also, a lot of times you've been running on survival energy for so long that like dreaming feels like risky. So just doing something outside of that survival mechanism feels like super risky, okay? Which is kind of the same thing as your nervous system protecting you. Okay, and then obviously you're scared to want more because wanting requires being honest with yourself about some of the changes you made. So maybe you're in a place where when you make these changes, other people aren't going to be happy about it. And you know you're going to get some like, you know, backlash from it. And you just don't feel like doing that. You don't have the capacity for it. So there's so many different reasons why you might be stuck. Also, I think sometimes when we stay in the stuck state for too long, it might also be, there might be a reason to it. Like sometimes we need some space to rest. Sometimes things in the universe need to rearrange themselves in order for you to move forward. So sometimes, you know, and I definitely went through this where I was like, you know what, maybe I'm standing still because I need to rest, because you know, once I move into that next era of my life, I'm not going to have a lot of time to rest. Maybe I'm going to be really busy. So maybe I should embrace this time for a time of rest, a time to like think to myself what I really want and get laser focused and really, really clear on what I want, so that when I do move forward, that I'm moving in the right direction. So sometimes the universe might create that space for you to sit there for a while so that you could really think about what you want to do, and you could really get the rest before like that surge of energy that you're going to need to move forward. I think also, eventually you're going to like reach a place where, like I said, the discomfort of being stuck is going to be greater than the discomfort of the change that you have to make. And that's it. That's all you need. And, so I don't think stuck is necessarily a bad thing. Like when people feel stagnant and stuck, sometimes they're like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. And I went through that myself. But then sometimes you need that space. The pressure that you feel to move is embrace that pressure and use that as the momentum you need. So when your life starts to feel like too tight, too small, too repetitive, it's because you're being asked to move. And yes, this time of year with the new year coming, it doesn't like magically fix anything. You're not going to like set all these goals and they're going to magically happen. You're going to magically move forward, but it is like a psychological reset point that a lot of people have, and your body kind of recognizes that. And what I love about winter is winter gives us the space for change. It gives us that going inward time where we get to think about what we want. We get to really, like I said, get laser focused on the things that we want. And, when you're in the summer, you're so busy, you're doing all this stuff, you're traveling, you're going to barbecues, I don't know, whatever, you're outside. I'm outside gardening like 24/7. Winter is completely different because for me at least, I'm not outside. I'm not I have a lot of free time. And so winter for me is the perfect time to like really establish, the direction I want to go in. So this is the season when people feel that tension between who they've been and who they're becoming, right? And like I said, that tension is not bad. It's momentum. It really creates that movement for you. So a couple of questions that you could ask yourself, and you could use these to journal a little bit. And these 3 podcast episodes are going to be not too long. I don't want to make them too long because I want you to like really think about some of the things to help you move forward if you're in this stuck place, or if you want some changes in your life. So this series is going to be for you. And then next week, I'll have like the next step, and then the week after that, the next step, so that you could slowly move out of this and then move into the new year with some really cool, like aligned momentum. So a few questions to journal on. What part of your life has felt like almost right for too long? So almost right, like it's not, it's not the greatest, but it's also not too bad. And sometimes you say to yourself, you talk to yourself and you say things like, I should be happy, I should be thankful, I have all the things that I have, I'm really lucky, but it just doesn't feel right, and it hasn't felt right for a long time, or it's not exactly what you want, it's a little off, like you're almost like settling kind of. So like do some journal work, and before you go into the journaling, maybe close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and get into that relaxed state. I always say that doing journal work is like having a conversation with your subconscious. But in order to do that, in order to really be open, you have to get yourself into a relaxed state. And your journaling will be so much more powerful if you do this for yourself. So take a few minutes, take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and really get relaxed. And as I said, what part of your life has felt almost right for too long? Maybe it's more than one part too. Maybe it's like, maybe you need to revamp everything. That's kind of how I feel right now. I feel like almost every part of my life is changing, and it's like super exciting and super scary at the same time. And I absolutely love it. Okay, another question that you can ask yourself is, where have you been settling because the alternative feels a little scary or too scary or big scary? And this is definitely me. absolutely. Like I said, I was stuck in that comfort zone because I felt like I was keeping myself safe. So everything kind of felt scary. And I've definitely, probably for the past 5 years, I've been settling on so many things, staying small on so many things because the alternative just felt too big, too scary. And frankly, I really did not have the mental capacity for it. I'm just going to be honest. It was too much. And I feel like I said, the discomfort just got to be enough to push me forward. That's all. That's the only thing that's changed, I think. So that's a really good question to ask yourself. Where have you been settling because the alternative feels scary? Another one would be like, as we move into this winter season, like I said, there's a lot of space in the winter season. If you had permission to start over, what is the first thing that you would drop out of your life, you would get rid of, that you think is just, you should stop doing? This is like a really interesting question because it's not about like, what do you want to move towards? It's about what do you want to let go of? And I think what's nice about kind of defining that, it creates that space, that vacuum. Because as soon as you make space, you take something out that you've been doing for so long, maybe that's just not aligned, and you're letting it go and you're not going to do it anymore. And this is definitely something I've been doing in my business, letting go of some things and bringing new things into my business that I really, really enjoy, and kind of letting go of the things that I don't enjoy as much anymore. When you do that, you create space for new things, and automatically it's like automatically the universe responds. Like I said, it's a vacuum. Like, you're getting rid of this, and the universe is like, okay, here's what you want now. Like, now here's the thing that you've been wanting. You just had to create a little space for it. So that's a really, really good question, because instead of focusing on the direction you want to go in, you're creating the space for yourself to then focus on where you want to go. So as I said, next week I'm going to show you how to move out of this hold-in pattern that you might be in. Even if it's a small hold-in pattern and it's not your whole life like myself, but how can you move out of the hold-in pattern slowly, gently, without like blowing up your whole life, okay? Even though I'm making some really, really big changes, I'm not blowing up my life. I'm doing it in a way that feels really, it's uncomfortable at the same time. So maybe the right word is, it's uncomfortable and scary, but it's still like I'm doing it in a safe way so that I don't feel unsteady or unsure of myself. So that's what I'm going to be going over next week. So number one, I want you to not feel bad about feeling stuck, because sometimes it's the space that we need in order to, it's almost like you're running this race, and all of a sudden you can't move forward. Like, the road is closed, and you're frustrated because you want to keep running the race, but you can't move. So you're like stuck in this space and you're forced to rest. So that's almost like what it's like when you get into like that hold-in pattern. Sometimes it's needed in order to like figure out where you want to go, and decide the path you want to take. So you're deciding what road you want to take in order to get to the place you want to go. So the road is closed. You have to find a new way to get to where you want to go. And so you're going to pause, take the time, and figure that out. And so being stuck can be really beautiful. It could be a beautiful space to be. And then, like I said, next week we're going to start to like figure out how we can move into something. Well, just start that momentum, I should say, without, like I said, blowing up your whole life. So I hope that this is really helpful for you guys. I love talking about getting unstuck. If you want one action step that you could do this week on top of the journaling I talked about, that really helps stir things up a little bit, you could just do one tiny thing different. And it could be something that has nothing to do with where you want to go. Maybe you have no idea what you want to do next, and that's why you're stuck. But doing things differently in your life stirs things up sometimes and creates momentum. So it could be like, it's going to a different coffee shop in the morning before work, taking a different path to work, like driving a different way. It could be changing around your schedule at home or moving some furniture around or decluttering. Sometimes when you do that, it just changes the trajectory of your life and it creates a little bit of change, enough to feel like that little refreshing nudge. And so that would be another action step that you could take this week. Okay, guys, until next week, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps get the show in front of more people who might need this type of support. And if you're ready to take your everyday self-care even deeper, come join us inside the Soul Aligned Life Patreon. Every week, you'll get new self-care practices and tools to help reduce stress and overwhelm. Plus, we do a monthly reset to keep you aligned and supported always. You'll find the link in the show notes, and I'd love to see you there. Until next time, be sure to take good care of yourself. Love you.